everyone. I wanted to make some videos about John Addington Symonds, A Problem in Modern Ethics. It may take me a couple, maybe even a few videos to work things out. I have taught this before, but I don't think I've ever made any videos on it before. So, unlike most of the other things that we've read, I don't have my thoughts focused on exactly what I think the major parts of the text are or the major ideas are. So you'll have to forgive me if I take some time to work things out. Before we even talk about the title, let's look at the introduction, which is really an amazing thing. He refers in the first sentence to a passion or a perversion of appetite, which has played a considerable part in the world's history, for good or evil. Who was John Addington Symonds? He was a man of letters, a British, I don't know if he was English or Scottish or Welsh, British writer, man of letters, scholar. He translated things. He wrote essays, histories. I think he was a specialist in the Renaissance. And he was probably what we would call a gay man. But that is exactly what's sort of at issue here. What does that mean? He had a family, but Oscar Wilde had a family. So whether he was a gay man or bisexual or, what does that mean anyway? I don't know, but he is, we get to the end of this and the introduction, and he himself is struggling with what to call the phenomenon that he's writing about. There is no accepted term. Pretty soon afterwards, the term homosexuality would become the standard one. That is a term I think is more or less passing from our language because it sounds a little clinical. But that word had not yet become the standard word for love between two people of the same gender. The word or the term that he says is coming into usage in his term is sexual inversion, which sounds even more clinical, but it's the best one that he can come up with. It's what we would call homosexuality or being gay, and it's so early in the game, written in the 1890s. That there's not really an accepted terminology for it. Yet, what's his point in the introduction is everyone knows what he means because what we would call homosexuality has been around forever and is found in every culture, which was, I think, to say that in the 1890s was quite a radical thing because I think it may even be that today there are certain countries, at least the governments of certain countries, that deny that there's any homosexuality in them. I think that was the attitude for a long time in Soviet Russia and communist China and maybe other countries that were delusional enough to think that there were no gay people in those nations, which is, of course, completely absurd. So for Symonds to say in the 1890s to do what he does here, it's just incredible. To just, to say, sometimes it is assumed the calm and dignified attitude of conscious merit, as in Sparta, Athens, and Thebes. Sometimes it skulks in holes and corners, hiding an abashed head and shrinking from the light of day, as in the capitals of modern Europe. It confronts us on the steppes of Asia, and then so on, in the bivouac of Celtic warriors, and upon the sands of Arabia, in the temple gardens of Japan, beneath the sultry vegetation of Peru, and the water beside the streams of Shiraz, which would be the Middle East, and the waters of the Ganges. I mean, basically saying homosexuality is everywhere. It is an established part of human life everywhere we look, and as far back in history as we go. He even hints that it was once a part of or acknowledged amongst the popes of the Roman Catholic Church and on the thrones of the Roman Empire. Yet he says no one, and then he says, it's been around forever, it's universal. Yet he says no one dares to speak of it, or if they do, they bait their breath and preface their remarks with maledictions, with curses upon it. Yet, what is his approach here? Let's try to approach the subject of homosexuality, or as he says, inverted sexual instinct, which is the most. He's looking for a term that is neutral, right? In inverted sexual instinct, there's nothing judging. He wants something that's scientific and non-judgmental because he thinks that's exactly what we need. We need to understand this phenomenon of homosexual, what we would call homosexuality, and we need to do it in a non-judgmental way. As he says, every family at the end here runs the risk of producing a boy or a girl whose life will be embittered by inverted sexuality, and not embittered because there's something inherently wrong with it, but embittered because society condemns it. But who in all other respects will be no worse or better than the normal members of the home. Surely then is our duty and our interest to learn what we can about its nature, to arrive through comprehension at some rational method of dealing with it, which is really all he's interested in doing in this book is to understand the phenomenon of being gay. We might